Welcome to our year-end 2025 wrap-up here at Upkeeping. I have been teasing for a few days now that I would be sharing my biggest lessons learned in year 4 of running our bookkeeping firm. And in the meantime, some of you shared your biggest takeaways or your biggest lessons learned, and I wanted to share a few of those that really resonated with me. And so the first one was from Stout Bookkeeping, and she simply put, listen to your gut. And that is so true in all aspects of our business, whether we are on a discovery call with a prospective client or we're working with a client and we're starting to notice red flags that we didn't see before, or working with a new client or an existing client's new hire or employee that we're seeing red flags. And just really trust your gut and just know that there's going to be times where we can sense something isn't right before the evidence is presented before us. And so I love that. The next one is from Loudon Ledger. And she said, be very intentional with who you take on as a client. And that whole statement is loaded for a completely separate conversation. So does that mean you niche and you are very specific with what type of industry you work with? Or are you going to work with a certain type of client that, for me, I'm like, if you treat me nice, you're my kind of client. But being very intentional about who you take on, do they align with your values? There's so many ways you can look at that, but it also goes hand in hand with that trust your gut comment. And so I'm noticing a theme here. And then Abacus 360 Bookkeeping said, letting my own fear of rejection dictate my pricing. And yes, I actually experienced that in year 1 of my business. And I was on a 20-minute free call with this amazing coach. Her name's Deb Boulanger. And she kept asking me why I was charging the prices that I was charging in my business, because they were really low. Again, year 1, like I don't know what my worth is yet. And it's something, mindset work is something we do continuously throughout this entrepreneurial journey. And so she kept asking me why, but why, Erin, but why? And then it finally just got down to the core of the issue. And really it was just my brokenness from honestly childhood. And so, I was raised by a single mom, and we would spend our Saturdays at Goodwill, and we'd be looking for clothes for me or items for our house. And growing up and, having to think about money more than kids probably should. And now being an adult running my own business, it was really hard for me to fathom the prices that I was charging my clients. I really had to do a lot of mindset work to change that narrative for me and get out of that poor girl mentality. So I get that so much. For upkeeping in 2025, I think the biggest lesson learned is communication is so key. And our problem clients in 2025 all stemmed around being the least communicative clients that we had. And so what I have learned is communicative clients become a problem when you are doing the work and waiting and being patient, and then months down the line, their problem and their tardiness and not getting you documents becomes your fault. And so in 2025, we actually let go of 4 of those non-communicative clients. And I will be honest, not before I lost sleep on a few of them, thinking about the work that still needed to be done. Of course, tax deadlines were not easy with those clients, knowing that there were still outstanding items that I was waiting on in order for us to perform our services to the best of our ability. And really, it was just about making sure that despite what we didn't have, were we still able to provide a good client experience? And the answer is not without those missing documents or missing pieces, whatever it is that we still needed from that client. We were not able to provide a good experience because it was never a whole picture for the client. And typically, again, these are the clients that on a Saturday would send, 6 emails with no subject line asking questions. And it's been really nice to kind of hone in on knowing which clients are starting to have that pattern, and then maybe reevaluating whether or not we're going to continue working with our clients. And so I did mention in a previous video that we are actually going to have a new KPI here at Upkeeping where we're going to track the last time we communicated with a client. So whether that is we're emailing or they're emailing us for email or questions that they might have, the idea is, when was our last touch point? Are we able to have conversations, get their questions answered, have our questions answered, and then tracking that? And, if we notice a pattern, get ahead of the pattern before it becomes our problem, 6 months down the line. And so again, communication is key. That's been our biggest learning lesson of 2025. Hopefully 2026 we'll learn from our lessons, move on, and grow. I'm hoping the same for you and your firms too. I would love to hear from you in the comments if any of this resonated. Thanks for keeping up with Upkeeping.